when we look at play for children around this age in early childhood, it's not really their ability to count or, to know numbers that determines later success. According to the literature, cognitive results plateau at 8. That's an academic way, basically, of saying that whether you learn to read at 4, whether you learn to read at 7, by the age of 8, you've got around the same, reading age. So what really matters in this age group is what we call disposition. So dispositions are the key things that actually underpin your ability to learn. And the dispositions you learn under 7 tend to be the dispositions that stay with you for the rest of your life. But it's powerful stuff. Dispositions are things like persevering through failure. If you give up the very first time that you experience, failure, then you're not going to be as successful as a learner that is willing to give it another go, give it another go, give it another go. That's a disposition. It's a sort of disposition that's going to set you up to do well for the rest of your educational life, for the rest of your learning. So hopefully you're getting that idea that under 7, it's these key dispositions that really determine how successful you're going to be. We want to predict your outcomes, actually, like as an adult, we want to predict your outcomes based on the research, based on the data that we gather under the age of 7. It's got nothing to do with your colours and numbers and stuff, because that stuff plateaued. The only way we can, in a research-based academic way, predict your outcomes as an adult is to ascertain your dispositions under the age of 7. Do you persevere through failure? Do you have the disposition to flip from one thing to the other? Or are you able to focus your attention on one thing and hold that attention, like she's doing now? That ability to focus your attention, that's a disposition that, again, is going to be the basis for all of your learning for the rest of your life. In fact, you could summarize all of that literature by saying that at this age, we're going to predict your outcomes. It's not based on how clever the child is. What it's actually based on is how clever the child feels. So if you say to a 6-year-old, mate, what do you like as a learner? When that's essentially finding out what their disposition is towards themselves as a learner. Mate, what do you like as a learner? The child has been in a free play environment like this, with open-ended equipment and the sort of things we're going to talk about. The child has been in a free play environment will basically say, yeah, I'm a good learner, cheers. Whereas children who are in more adult-led, like primary school type curriculums in an early childhood setting with the teachers in charge and there's a focus on acquiring literacy and numeracy, you ask those kids, mate, what do you like as a learner? Most of them reply along the lines of, not good enough. Apparently there's an expectation I should be doing better than what I'm doing, so I'm not quite as good as I should be. That's the key disposition that will predict more than any other piece of information how much money you're earning at 32, not the colours and numbers. So dispositions are really key to understanding what happens in early childhood. And these sorts of environments are the environments that we know, through the evidence and the research, facilitate the development of those dispositions so well. Those dispositions aren't just about how well you're going to do academically, you're also to do someone's fascinated in the camera. Absolutely naturally, curiosity. Oh, done. It's not just about how you're going to do academically, it's about what we call resilience, which you could just say is your ability to bounce back, but it's also to do with your ability to be happy and enjoy life. So under the age of 7, it's not, dispositions don't just input to your later academic outcomes, they directly correlate with how resilient you will be for the rest of your life. Because again, it's not just learning like later on to learn colours and numbers and stuff, literacy and numeracy, that you need dispositions like perseverance through failure. It's also in the development of resilience. Does one bad thing happen, or you lock yourself in your room and feel like the world's over and you can't cope, or do you have the resilience to bounce back, to bring forth the stuff that you need to get through that situation? All of that is developed in this setting, under the age of 7. I really wish everyone knew that, because I think there's a big emphasis on focusing on literacy and numeracy and teacher-led environments, getting them ready for primary school. But if you're spending all of under 7 getting ready to be 7, you're really failing to meet the needs of 4, 5 and 6-year-olds. Because the needs of 4, 5 and 6-year-olds are quite different than the needs of 7-year-olds. They're quite different from primary school age. The key word to understanding that is dispositions. Dispositions lead to not just intelligence, but resilience. Risky play is a topic close to my heart, because it's something that in this new age of worrying about children getting injured, it's often missed just how crucial risky play is to the overall development and the overall development of intelligence for the child. Yeah, risky play allows the child to experiment the edges of where their reality is and basically expand their whole learning environment. Whenever you're going to learn something new, it involves taking a risk. So doing things like this, especially like when we see the kids earlier climbing over the top and stuff, that risk-taking is the same thing in their brain that's going to ultimately lead to learning. Using your imagination is a risk in itself. So any type of risky play that pushes the child to their limits and allows them to see they can do more than they previously thought, that's the crucial stuff in really developing intelligence, and it's what drives human development, really. You have to take risks in order to develop. The great thing about playground equipment like this is that it's open-ended. There's not just one way that it can be preset. Like if we look at the kids over here, turn what are ramps here into some type of boat or walker. That's just one way that they've to use the information. You see kids going through tunnels there. This can be configured in so many different ways. It allows for that key imagination to come through in kids. When we give kids activities or equipment that only has one preset outcome, that really limits imagination. And imagination is basically the basis of problem solving. You could argue that problem solving is the basis of intelligence. So imagination is not just a warm, fluffy thing for arts. It is actually at the basis of human intelligence. And open-ended resources, where the child's able to be in charge of how that equipment's put out, we call that child-led. Instead of the teacher being in charge and saying, this is how you're going to use it, the children are in charge of how they use it. The children can reconfigure it. Open-ended activities generally encourage imagination so much more. In early childhood, that's what we'd like to see. Not only environments that are child-led, where the child's in charge of their play, but open-ended resources everywhere, where the child can manipulate those resources in 1,000 different ways to spark that imagination. That imagination being the basis for whole lots of their intelligence. Natural environments like this just absolutely capture a child's imagination. You can't reproduce this. Like the texture, the variety. That's a microphone so I can talk into it. I thought we could talk into the camera. If you just talk from here, they can hear you right there. You'll sound like one of the birds. Well, when there isn't a strange man in their midst, the children will normally interact with this culture. This is incredible because it's actually a relatively small space. You're relatively close to a road, but you could feel like you're out in the middle of the native bush. And this sort of bush, the activities, the undergrowth, what nature provides, you just can't replicate. No matter how advanced man gets, you can't replicate, even in a small space of size this, the amount of life, the different textures, the different ways for the child to interact with the environment. With what is really a handful of trees and plants and a lot of dirt, just nature. It's incredible. This will stop children getting bored, because this environment's ever changing. We see a big push in the forest schools and primary school, because the opportunities for learning in an environment like this are just endless. And the environment's never the same. Like literally, you can't have it the next day, same as it was the day before. It's a constant state of change, because just under our feet is a living map of life. And all around us is a living cycle of life. And the children love interacting with it. It's natural. They're digging their hands into the dirt, getting wet. It's something we've been doing as human beings since the beginning of time, and it seems to resonate with the kids. Hey buddy, how are you? That's good. Are you liking the play outside? This is a cool place you got to play in. That's neat. Where you going? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How you doing? On the 50. I really admire teachers in early childhood. I've been a primary school teacher and an early childhood teacher. And it's a whole lot easier to be a primary school teacher in many ways because you get to tell the kids what to do. It's reading time, get your reading books out. The research for children under 7 shows that's not very effective. We're talking about child-led environments. But that doesn't mean a child-led environment doesn't mean there's no role for the teacher. And if you look at what the teachers are doing in the background, it's much more of an art form, I think, of being a primary school teacher. Because you are there to scaffold and to support and to enhance the learning. It's not allowed to be in charge where you do it. It has to be child-led. So you have to follow the children's lead. Even asking questions can direct the child's lead away from the learning. So it's a real art form to know how to scaffold the kids' learning, how to enhance it. Use strategies like, if I've seen from this morning, was, a child might be trying to achieve something, and rather than the teacher jumping in and telling them how to do it straight away, the teacher's not allowed to lead in that way. The teacher waits and watches, and and what's just maybe a strategy that the child uses. And the child might say not persevere with that strategy. So the teacher might just out loud say, oh, I really liked how you kept throwing the ball up the top. Seems to be getting somewhere with that. So it's encouraging the learning. The child's already led it. He's already unled himself. But by just encouraging that perseverance slightly, the child has another couple of goes and then experiences success. So it is, like I say, a real art form. You have to know how to guide without being in charge. It's really a support role. It was quite hard to come from being a primary school teacher that didn't realise how much I directed the learning until I was in an environment like this where I'm not allowed to do it at all. I had to keep catching myself. So it took a while to develop that, like I say, that art of knowing how to enhance children's learning and support their learning, and even to some extent guide their learning without ever taking charge of their learning. Leading that autonomy, that what Māori would call tino rangatiratanga, that child's own ability to define how they're going to do it, leaving that in charge. Beautiful thing. You hear little techniques all the time, just like the teacher just observing what the child's doing. So not directing in any way. Just heard things like, oh, I see you're looking through your telescope, oh, you've got your telescope well round. By just acknowledging the child's learning, noticing the child's learning, again, without trying to direct the child's learning. It's having trust in the child that they do know what they're doing, that their process of play isn't just an incoherent ramble of coincidences, but is actually a well-defined, it's almost scientific process that the child is using to understand the world, to interact with the world. And it's the basis for all their learning for the rest of their life. So to get to enhance that as an adult in this environment, as a teacher, it's a real privilege.